If you found this video by accident, don't brush that off. People rarely end up here by coincidence. This is Nightmare Crypt, and what you're about to hear isn't a story I wrote for entertainment. It's something that happened to me, something I've tried to forget and failed. I'm recording this because silence hasn't helped, and because whatever followed me back seems to hate being ignored. Listen carefully, and if at any point you hear something that doesn't belong where you are, pause the video. I mean it. I don't know how much time I have left before this gets worse, so I'm going to start at the end. Something is in my apartment with me right now. I can't see it. I haven't seen it clearly in weeks, but I can hear it. Not constantly, not enough to prove anything, just enough to make my skin crawl and my thoughts spiral. It waits until everything else goes quiet, until the fridge stops humming, until traffic fades, until my own breathing slows. Then it starts. A thin, uneven sound. Almost a whistle. Almost. It's wrong in a way that's hard to explain. Like someone trying to remember how a whistle works. Like breath shaped into something it doesn't understand yet. I'm telling you this because I don't want to be the last person who knows what that sound means. I've tried to convince myself this is stress, insomnia, a delayed breakdown. I've had professionals tell me it's anxiety, auditory hallucinations, unresolved grief. I nodded, took the prescriptions, did the breathing exercises. None of that explains why the sound stops when I hold my breath. None of that explains why it started months ago, miles away from here, on a stretch of coastline, where no one goes unless they want to be alone. I didn't believe in omens or cursed objects or any of that garbage. I still don't, not really. I believe in cause and effect, and I know exactly when this started. It started with a vacation I didn't need, a beach house I shouldn't have rented, and a whistle I never should have picked up. I went to the coast because my life felt too quiet in the wrong way. After the divorce, my apartment stopped feeling like a place and started feeling like a waiting room. Same walls, same ticking clock, same silence pressing in on me at night. I told people I needed fresh air. What I needed was noise that didn't remind me of myself. I found the listing online. A small, weather-beaten house on the Northern California coast. Cheap, isolated, rustic, which I knew was code for drafty and half-broken. No neighbors for at least a mile. Spotty cell service, no distractions. Perfect, I thought. The first thing I noticed when I arrived was the smell. Salt, wet wood, and something metallic underneath, like old tools left out in the rain. The wind never stopped. It pushed against the house constantly, making it creak and sigh like it was tired of standing. I settled into a routine fast. Coffee at dawn on the back porch, watching fog roll in off the water, long walks along the beach, boots crunching over rocks and dried kelp, frozen dinners eaten straight from the tray because I didn't care enough to dirty plates. At night, I slept harder than I had in months. That should have been my first warning. The beach behind the house stretched for miles, but it never felt empty. Not crowded either, just occupied, like a place that tolerated me instead of welcoming me. Gulls cried overhead, seals barked somewhere out in the fog, and sometimes I thought I heard footsteps behind me, always out of sync with my own. I kept turning around to find nothing. On my third day, the tide was low enough to expose a wide strip of wet sand near the cliffs. That's where I saw it, half buried near a cluster of black rocks. At first I thought it was trash, a bit of pipe or a broken tool. I almost kept walking. I don't know why I stopped. Curiosity, maybe. Or habit. I've always had trouble leaving things unexplained. I knelt and dug it out with my fingers. It was a whistle, heavy for its size, made of tarnished metal that didn't quite look like brass or steel. The surface was pitted and scratched, not decoratively, but unevenly, like someone had scraped at it over time. There were no markings I could recognize, no brand, no initials. The strange thing was the temperature. The air was cold enough to sting my fingers, but the whistle felt warm. Not hot, just warmer than it should have been, like it had been held recently. I remember standing there, staring at it, feeling vaguely embarrassed by the chill running up my spine. I hadn't heard anyone nearby. No voices, no footsteps, just the wind and the water. I didn't blow into it. The thought crossed my mind, then slid away, leaving a tight feeling in my chest I couldn't explain. Instead, I wiped it on my jacket and slipped it into my pocket, telling myself I'd toss it later. I didn't toss it. Back at the house, I rinsed it in the sink. Dark water poured out for a second, like something had been trapped inside. Sand, I told myself. Nothing else made sense. I set it on the counter and turned away. That night, I dreamed of hallways. Long, narrow spaces with walls too close together. Something moved through them ahead of me, unseen, leaving only sound behind. Air scraping through tight gaps, uneven and searching. I woke up just before dawn, heart racing. The whistle was gone from the counter. I found it later that morning on the back porch, standing upright against the railing, perfectly balanced. I stared at it for a long time, trying to remember moving it, trying to remember anything from the night before that explained how it got there. I told myself I must have sleepwalked. That was the first lie I believed. The next few days were quiet, too quiet, the kind of calm that makes you start listening for what's missing instead of what's there. The whistle started showing up in places I didn't leave it, on the kitchen table, on the windowsill. Once, next to my toothbrush, still damp from the sink. Every time I felt that same tightness in my chest, followed by the same rationalization. I'm tired. I'm distracted. I'm imagining patterns. The wind grew louder at night, not stronger, louder. It rose and fell in long, uneven breaths, rattling the windows just enough to keep me half awake. Sometimes, threaded through it, there was another sound. Thin, broken, almost musical. Almost. I tried sleeping with earplugs. They muffled the wind, but not the sense of being listened to. I started waking up with my jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. On the fifth night, I found footprints on the kitchen floor. Bare feet, damp, leading from the back door to the hallway, stopping just outside my bedroom. I checked it twice. I stood there shaking, staring at the shape of the toes. Too long, too narrow, telling myself it was condensation tracked in seawater, anything that didn't end with me not being alone. I scrubbed the floor until my hands were raw. That was the night I decided to get rid of the whistle. I walked it down the beach under a sky so dark it felt heavy. The tide was high, waves crashing hard against the rocks. I didn't hesitate. I hurled the whistle into the water as far as I could and watched it vanish beneath the foam. I stood there longer than I needed to, waiting for relief. When I got back to the house, the whistle was sitting in the sink, still warm. That's when I realized this wasn't about losing it. It was about being invited. I didn't touch the whistle after that. I couldn't. The idea of picking it up made my stomach twist, like I'd be closing my hand around something alive. I left it where it was and spent the rest of the night sitting on the couch with every light on, pretending that vigilance counted as safety. Around 2 a.m., the wind changed. It didn't get louder, it got closer. The sound pressed against the walls, slipping through the seams of the house, threading itself into the gaps between floorboards and door frames. And underneath it, faint but unmistakable, was that almost whistle again, not coming from any one direction, not echoing, waiting. I held my breath without realizing it. The sound stopped. My lungs burned. I exhaled. It started again. That was when the fear stopped being abstract. That was when it stopped being something I can talk myself out of. Whatever was making that sound was aware of me. Not watching, not yet, but listening. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, the house looked normal. Sunlight cut through the windows. Dust floated lazily in the air. The whistle was gone from the sink. I found it later tucked neatly into my jacket pocket. I packed my bags after that. Not carefully, not thoughtfully. I threw clothes into my suitcase, knocking things over, moving too fast. Every creak of the house made me flinch. I kept expecting to hear something behind me. Footsteps, breathing, anything. But there was nothing. Nothing but the wind. As I loaded the car, I felt eyes on my back. Not a gaze exactly. Pressure. Like the air itself was leaning toward me. I slammed the trunk shut harder than I needed to, and got in the driver's seat with shaking hands. The engine turned over on the first try. That felt wrong too. I didn't look back at the house when I pulled away. I should have stayed gone. I drove inland for hours, stopping only when my hands cramped from gripping the wheel. I checked into a roadside motel that smelled like bleach and old carpet. The kind of place no one cares about for long. I figured anonymity would help. That night, I slept for almost 12 hours straight. No dreams, no sound, just darkness. I woke up feeling foolish, embarrassed, like I'd let isolation get the better of me. The whistle sat on the nightstand, catching the light from the window. I screamed. The clerk told me later they heard something, but not enough to call the police. I laughed too hard when I explained it away. Left early, didn't look anyone in the eye. I drove home after that, back to my apartment, back to the city, back to noise and neighbors, and the comforting lie that nothing truly strange could survive in a place so crowded. For a few days it worked. I unpacked, I cleaned, I tried to reset my routine. I told myself the whistle was just an object, metal and air, nothing more. I locked it in a drawer I never used, and shoved the drawer shut. Smiled at coworkers, answered emails. At night, I slept with the TV on, drowning the silence and voices that weren't meant for me. Then one night, the TV cut to static on its own, and through the hiss, I heard breathing. Not mine. I muted the screen, the breathing stopped. I unmuted it. The breathing came back, ragged, uneven, struggling to find rhythm. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. That scared me more. Sleep stopped being restful after that. I drifted off in short bursts, always waking with the sense that something had shifted while I wasn't watching. Objects felt closer together. Shadows seemed heavier, thicker around the edges. I started finding the drawer open in the morning. Sometimes the whistle was inside, sometimes it wasn't. I began checking the apartment compulsively, closets, behind doors, under the bed. I knew how irrational it looked. I knew no explanation made sense, but knowing didn't help. One night I woke up because my chest hurt, not sharp pain, pressure, like someone had placed a weight on me and was slowly leaning into it. I sat up gasping, clawing at my shirt, convinced I was having a heart attack. Then I heard it, not in the room, inside me. The sound vibrated through my ribs, shallow and uneven, as if my lungs had become hollow metal. I slapped my hand over my mouth, panic rising, afraid that if I breathed wrong, it would get louder. The sound adjusted, matched me. I scrambled out of bed and stumbled into the bathroom, flipping the light on. My reflection looked wrong, too pale, eyes too wide. My chest rose and fell in jerky movements, out of sync with what I felt. The mirror fogged, not from steam, from breath. A second set. I backed away until my spine hit the wall, heart hammering. The fog cleared slowly, revealing nothing behind me. No face. Just the sound, softer now, curious. That was the moment I realized I wasn't being hunted. I was being practiced on. I tried to get help after that. Doctor visits, sleep studies, therapy sessions where I danced around the truth, because saying it out loud made me sound unhinged. They adjusted medications, suggested stress leave, asked about trauma. I lied. The whistle started appearing in public places. Once, in my coat pocket during a meeting. Once, balanced on my car's dashboard, after I'd sworn I left it at home. Each time it felt warmer, heavier, more familiar. I stopped going out, stopped answering calls. I taped over vents, stuffed towels under doors, anything to keep sound from slipping through. That only made the silence worse. One night, around 3 a.m., the power went out. The city went quiet in a way it never does. No traffic hum, no distant sirens, just a heavy, waiting stillness. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding my phone like it could protect me. Then I heard footsteps, slow, bare, moving across my living room. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. The steps stopped outside my bedroom door. Something pressed against the wood, not weight, but intent, like a listener leaning close to a speaker. The whistle sounded then, perfectly, clear, steady, confident. I lost control. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember screaming. I remember my hands shaking so badly I couldn't turn the doorknob when I tried to run. I remember sliding down the wall, covering my ears, sobbing like a child. The sound came from everywhere. From the walls, from the floor, from inside my chest. And then it stopped. The power came back on. The door stood open. The living room was empty. On the floor directly in front of me lay the whistle, split down the middle, like something had forced its way out. I don't know how long I sat there. When I finally moved, it was to crawl backward, dragging myself into the corner of the room, eyes locked on the broken metal. My body felt wrong, lighter somehow, like something essential had been loosened. That's when I realized the sound wasn't gone. It was quieter now, closer, inside. I ran again after that. New city, new apartment, new job. I threw away everything I owned that could carry a sound. I don't own instruments. I don't hum. I don't even breathe deeply unless I have to. It doesn't matter, because sometimes late at night when everything is still, I feel air being shaped inside me, pulled into a pattern I don't choose. Practiced. I'm telling you this because it's learning faster now. I can feel it waiting for moments when I forget to be afraid. When I sigh, when I yawn, when I let my guard down. I don't know what happens when it gets it right. I don't know what comes after. If you ever hear a sound that pauses when you do, if you ever find something that keeps coming back warmer than before, if you ever feel your breath stop being yours, don't answer it. And whatever you do, don't whistle.